Endowed with a generous splash of colorful traditions and culture, Taraba, the land of beautiful vista and waterfalls.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am Musa Agbadu. Here we dissect issues, share our views on topics trending and matters affecting you and I as a people. With me in the studio is
Abraham Manajula, good morning.
good morning. Hope you had a pleasant night rest.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good to see you. You're looking good as usual.
Thank you. I'm already in the weekend book and the new minimum wage. Hopefully, maybe those of us in the private sector can also have an increase in whatever we get.
Wow. Well, talking about the new minimum wage. Yesterday, the federal government and the organized labor have agreed on 70,000 naira as the new minimum wage. The bill is to be sent to the National Assembly hopefully on Tuesday. The labor union leaders were so elated, they even gave the president three gozas. Well, it's commendable in as much as the value of 70,000 naira as at today, it's not something to write home about, but I feel they are not where they used to be. At least the 70,000 compared to the 30,000 naira is about 130 something percent increase, and they might not be where they are or where we all wanted, but is a step in the right direction. At least they are not where they used to be. What's your view, sir?
Well, like every Nigerian, we all use the sign of relief that the never-ending negotiation over the minimum wage has finally come to an end temporarily, because from what we know, it's going to be an ongoing discussion. And the figure arrived at, it's a figure that in reality, in actually what we need, that figure may not be enough for the average worker as a minimum wage. But if we look at the reality of our economics, of our finances, and every other thing, I think we just have to cut our material, our quote according to our material, as the case may be. So the 70,000 is a between Labour and federal government is a good one, at least. And from what I see from there is also a promise by the federal government that it will be reviewed every three years. Now, and I heard the Labour chairman, LLC chairman yesterday, Comrade Joe Ajero, saying that they are going to extract a promissory note from the president to ensure that this negotiation every three years there must be a review, so that it wouldn't just be an empty promise on air and in 3 years time another government comes, or the and I also think they are going to backdate the negotiation date to when it started. It will have started May.
Yeah,
uh,
2020.
so the next 3 years the president should hopefully should still be here, so he's going to be part of the negotiations and everything, and he's going to fall during the period of election. So everybody will be on their toes. Then again, the president was saying he has to be careful. He understands what the people are going through, but he has to be careful not to make mistake in driving the economy down along with Labour. So they came to that 70,000. And Labour leaders also said, because we were saying, why accept 70,000 when you went for as high as 650 and later 250? So Labour was like, yeah, they accepted with mixed feelings. But because of the economy, you just have to look at the reality and accept it. And also with the promise that it will be reviewed every three years.
Well, sorry to cut you short. this 70,000 naira, we all agreed at least it's better
It's
than the
better, yes,
thirty
yes.
thousand naira because now it means more money for the state government to pay because it's not just the minimum worker. The
Yes.
person on level 17 gets an increase
Increase
too.
also, yes.
So definitely the wage bill will be increased. But you know, it's one thing for us to have a figure. It's another thing for the implementation because you know that even the 30,000 is still not being implemented in some states. Now that Labour and the government have agreed on 70,000 naira, do you think this time around, or what do you think Labour should do to ensure that it's being implemented across board, that all state government and local government pay the 70,000 naira minimum wage if passed by the National Assembly?
Now, if you look at it, the first step is what will be taken hopefully by Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
That this the bill and the executive bill will be sent to the National Assembly and they will look at it and make it into a law. Now, if the National Assembly has made this into a law, it is binding on every Nigerian, state, federal, local government, and even the private sector, the organized private sector. It is binding on them. Now, I think the negotiation for the 70,000 with the federal government is the least of the job to be done by Labour. Now, this is when the real job starts. This is where the work, this is where we'll know if Labour is really serious about the plight of the welfare and plight of Nigerians. Now, Labour has state chapters, they have local government chapters, they have chapters everywhere. So this is the time to go to work. This is not the time for them to be having a national meeting, a luta here and there at the national level. It is time to come to the state and enforce, do whatever it takes to enforce the law because it's a law and it's binding on everybody. So they need to go back to the state and ensure that this negotiation, the workers at the state level and local government level also partake in this because there is no point we have a national law that is being disobeyed at the subnationals. So this is one of the things that Labour needs to work. They need to work. It is not time to say it is done and dusted and then they sit down and wait for the next increase in fuel price, then they go aluta aluta. This is the time Nigerians should put Labour on their toes. And the state governments, this is the period where we will have to tell ourselves the truth. If you cannot do what you're supposed to do as a state or as the chief executive of the state, then you have no business being there in the first place. You knew the conditions of, you should know the conditions of your state before you became a governor. And you made all the promises, you will do this, you will do that. And we all knew before this election that definitely at one point or the other, subsidy will be taken off. And it is going to have some other effect. So you should be the states should begin to think outside federal allocation. How do they improve the IGR? How do they manage their workforce in such a way that they have a workforce that is productive and not just a workforce that everybody comes in just to settle political scores. So these are things that need to be looked into.
So this is more work for the labor
More
union,
work.
and this is the main time they should enforce and ensure that if this the minimum wage is being passed into law by the National Assembly, every worker in Nigeria, the organized, the organized private sector, yesterday they were saying, okay, now that the federal government have agreed on the amount 70,000 naira, they were saying the government should at least cut some taxes for them, for to enable them to pay their staff the 70,000. That was why I was uh, advocating for a realistic amount. Well, we are now saving money from subsidy removal. So the state gets more money, the local government gets more money. Talking about the private sector, I feel they really have a point that government should cut certain taxes so that it will enable them to pay. And if we are really concerned about the common person, the average worker, I feel it's a way to go. What's your view?
Uh, Thank you. I think if there's any part of the tripartite
Mm.
that I feel we've not been good to even the media. We've always been reporting what Labour said, what FD said. Forgetting that there's an organized private sector that was part of the negotiation.
Mm.
And the organized private sector, they employ millions of Nigerians. They drive the economy. We didn't put in all our reports, we take them out, we talk about state government, we talk about federal government. Now this decision has been made. And to be fair to the private sector, the current economic situation is telling on them. In some areas, taxes have been increased, the ease of doing business,
Yeah,
the
cost of production
unstable
is very high.
cost of production, the average Nigerians does not have the means of buying goods. So it's telling on the private sector. Some of us do one business or the other, and we know the burden we are facing. So if there's any part of this agreement that should be looked into, it is that of the private sector. The government needs to do everything possible to ensure that the business of these people don't die. And again, the private sector, once it hits them so hard, they lay off staff. They will have to lay off. They will have to retrench. They have to cut down on workers, and it will further affect the economy. So the private sector, they really need to look at what they are saying and find a way out for them. If it is reduction in taxes, there are many ways. The government should come out with ways, because the private sector begin to lay off workers, it will affect you. Are throwing more people into the unemployment market. If the private sector begins to close down, the companies begin to close down because they can't pay the wages, they can't the cost of production is getting too high. It's going to affect the economy. So the private sector will need to do something about them.
Definitely, I totally agree with you saying now the work starts. It's not only for the labor union, but the government too. The truth is, now that the private sector are calling for a cut in taxes and the rest of it, for them to enable them to pay their workers, I feel it should be a robust and a realistic discussion, because the truth is, most people in the private sector pay more, way under the minimum wage. It's not now that federal government will now cut the taxes and there will not be corresponding increase in the welfare of their own staff, because some people are just going to work because they have no other option. Most people are underemployed. The private sector don't really adhere to this minimum wage stuff at all. So I feel there should be a robust and a realistic discussion. Now the work really starts. Once, or let's say on Tuesday, I hope the National Assembly will hasten the process to make it into law, the new minimum wage of 70,000. Then Labour should take a step further to ensure that it's being implemented across board. And federal government should also listen to the organized private sector for them to enable them to pay their staff and their workers the 70,000 naira a month. At least things will improve a little. Yeah, yeah. So it's a step in the right direction. Because the federal government also promised that they are not only stopping at the 70,000 naira, that there will be provision of CNG buses to states to cut down the cost of transportation. They said they will also look into the issue of SANU and NASU, and they said they will also improve on the infrastructure so that it will be a kind of general overhaul. So I feel that's commendable. That was coming from the Honorable Minister of Information and Orientation, Mohammed Idris.
The thing is, it is commendable. But all these things they are saying now are things we hear every day. We will improve on this, we will provide this, during elections, we heard it, after election, we heard it. Every week there is a promise, there is one promise or the other. Now it's not. Nigerians are tired of promises. If it is about promises, I think we are the most promised people on earth. What we need is we want to see these CNG buses. We want to see the promises come to pass. I don't personally. I think I've heard enough for me to know that a promise is just in the context of Nigeria. A promise is just a promise. It's not a debt. It's a promise. So if they put this, if this promise is kept, Nigerians will be happy. But the promise are just made every time they come. Another thing will come up. These same promises will be made. So we should work on that. Then Labour and FG should ensure that there should be conditions attached to the tax reduction for the private sector. For you to qualify for this tax reduction, you must do this, you must do that, you must increase your wages. They should check their books to ensure that yes, I know the really big multinationals, some have even been paying above the minimum wage. Then, but there are some that are very funny with the way they do things. Then again, it will bring up the issue of casualization, contract staffs. A lot of them will begin to hide under, they will lay off staffs or they turn their staffs into contract staffs. So in this case, they have no obligation over the wage of their contract staff. This is one of the things I hold against Labour. For years, even right from the time of Adams Oshomole, they've been kicking against this casualization. But I've worked in several organizations and I see them, it is a standard practice. They lay off staffs or you see 70% of their workers are contract staff. These are the things that should be looked into because it's like one step forward, 10 steps backward. When you say, okay, you increase wages, then they lay off staffs or they place their staffs on contracts or make them casual staff. So it defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose because when you're on contract with someone, you just telling this is my contract for this month. You know what to do. Then that one look for people around within who can, and there are other people. We are highly our employment rate is very high. So you always find people who are ready to do anything instead of sitting at home. So those are the things that the government and Labour should look into.
Well, we'll call on the federal government and the labor unions to rise up to the occasion. Now the real work start. Let's see implementation.
Yes.
As you said, promise is just a promise. Well, the National Assembly, that's the House of Representatives, are saying they will cut their salary by 50% because of the hardship and the rest of it. When we come back, we are due for a break. We'll share our thoughts and views on that. Please stay with us.
Endowed with a generous splash of colorful traditions and culture. Taraba, the land of beautiful vista and waterfalls. This is Nigeria's nature treasury, the one-stop land that caters for every shade of tourism interests. Haske-tv, bringing you the best in tourism. At haske-tv, we are allied.
Welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show. Before we went on the short break, the House of Representatives are cutting their salaries by 50% for the next 6 months. This is to support Nigerians and Nigeria in the present economic hardship. Well, uh, the labor unions and the civil society organizations said they are not impressed that this is not where the money is. In 6 months, it will be about 640 something million. They are saying this is their own way of supporting food security to alleviate the suffering of the people. What's your opinion?
First of all, well, just like they say, good manners is that whatever you are giving, you say thank you. Let me first of all say thank you to the House of Rep for what they've done, for their magnanimity in slashing by salaries by 50%,
For the
which
next 6 months.
for the next 6 months, which amount to 648 million naira, which are they said it will be used to support food sufficiency and address the high cost of food in the country. It's a welcome development, but I think we can do better.
Mm.
With Nigerians are not really concerned about the salaries of the National Assembly members. It is the bogus allowances that we're worried about. If you look at 6 months in the House of Rep, 6 months, 50% of their 6 month wage bill is about 648 million naira. If you look at the current situation, it's a drop in the ocean. It's a drop in the ocean. So this is what we are asking for. If you want to sacrifice, you should sacrifice something that is appreciable. I appreciate the fact that they made a sacrifice, but you should sacrifice something that is appreciable. They should cut down on the allowances, the travel allowances, the wardrobe allowances, newspaper allowances, allowances here and there, the number of aides and the money they spend. Those are the things that blow up the expenditure, their budget. This is what Nigerians are asking for. The 648 million, if you do your calculation, how many states do we have? 36 states. Divide it across the board. Let's say everybody the amount returns to his constituency. Of what effect will that be? So we're asking them that they can do better. That is why the civil societies like Yaga and the others, they said, no, your allowances, cut down the allowances, cut down on the spendings, cut down on now. This is a time where technology has taken over everything. We should deploy technology more rather than traveling here and there, spending money on hotels, spending money on tickets, these obstacles and the rest of it. There are facilities that you can use to have a meeting with anybody in anywhere in the world without you leaving the comfort of your office or your house as the case may be. I think they should look at such things so that, and I look at it nowadays, things are much easier to do. Things are much easier to do. It brings us back to my crowd with the tripartite committee that looked into this thing, where they spent 1 billion naira for discussion. I believe these discussions can be done
Online.
online. It can be done rather than traveling here. They'll work out, they'll go to their various chapters, come back again, they pay for their flight, they pay for hotel bills. These are the things we say they should cut down on. This wasteful spending in government. So that is my view. We thank you, House of Rep, but please do better. Do better.
Well, it's commendable. At least that means they are in touch somehow with the people. They know and they feel what the people are going through. And this is just the beginning. We just hope they do better and other arms of government emulate them, because the cost of governance in Nigeria is extremely high compared to other countries in the world. The House of Representatives have taking a step in the right direction, but we feel they can do better. And also other arms of government should
Yes.
emulate them. The executive arm and
The
their
states, even the states,
yes,
the ministers, everybody should do something now.
yeah,
And let us see them doing something.
yeah.
Even if their salary or allowance, let them do something. Now there is something about human as a whole. Now, what people really expect from you is just empathy. Show empathy, show that you care about them, show that you are ready to sacrifice something. So when you tell them, do this, they will say, okay, you have done it, I will follow. But when you say, Nigerians, tighten up your belt, and you are losing up your own belt to take more space because something more is coming. So let this thing go across board. Nigerians are disillusioned when they hear bogus amount of money used for travels and the rest of it, and you're telling us to sit tight. When you look at the budget of a ministry or a body or the National Assembly, you see the number of people there, and then you look at the millions of Nigerians living below poverty rate. And most especially, we should focus on improving things that affects multi-dimensional poverty. And this multi-dimensional poverty are basic things. If you fix these basic things, provide roads, provide power, provide education, access to health care. If you do these basic things, I think Nigerians are industrious people. They just need these basic things to go. So I think they should, apart from giving, they should do more in terms of enacting laws and policies that will make us go out of this mess that we find ourselves.
It's over a year that this government, as the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into government. Uh, he on his inauguration, he announced removal of fuel subsidy, and then the hardship and the cost of things, everything went haywire. Do you feel the government is really doing enough? We've seen distribution of palliative, we've seen opening of borders, removal of tariff and taxes on importation of food items. Uh, we've seen local government autonomy. We've seen a couple of policies by the federal government to alleviate the poverty uh, in the land. Do you feel the government is really doing enough? And is the impact really felt?
Well, the fact speaks for itself. The government is not doing it. The government is working, but the work is slower than the rate at which the problem is increasing. So I'm not saying they are not working. I'm not saying they are not doing something, but they are not meeting up with the rate at which, if for example, the inflation is moving at 100 kilometers per hour and government is moving at 50 kilometers per hour, we can't say they are doing enough. They are not doing it. Then some of the policies requires long term for them to really have effect. But while you make such changes such as subsidy and floating of the naira, you should have a clear cut plan on how you mitigate the effect of this thing, because these are two major policies coming at the same time. Now, maybe the economists, those that understand how this works, might understand that okay, these are the we have to suffer this pain in order for us to have a brighter future. But if you look at it, the average Nigerian have always been told, suffer this pain to have a brighter future. So for now, yes, the people are skeptic. Could this be just one of those things again that we go through, and at the end of 4 years, nothing changes? That is the major thing that bothers Nigeria. Over the years, we've been promised that if we do this, you suffer it for a short period of time, and after some time, everything will be good. But eventually, we found out that it gets worse. I only pray that this government, in the case of this government, that it will be different, because honestly we have reached a point whereby Nigerians are the precipice. Anything we take them over, because since I've known, since I've been born, since I've started spending money buying things of my own, there have never been a time where the prices of good, uncertainty or the prices of good and the rest of it, with the price of good will skyrocket like this. I don't know, maybe before us, but I don't think there's ever been a time in Nigeria that the hike in prices will go this way. So something they are doing something, but they can do better. And we it's like telling a child that don't worry, I've done a contract, I'm expecting for money, please don't eat for today. That child will not understand you.
Yeah.
Maybe an adult. So
Mm.
you don't expect the ordinary Nigerian that is trying to feed to understand the fact that this thing will take 2 years, it will take 3 years. So they can do better, and they should do better.
Well, there's a bill in the Senate seeking to establish local government electoral independent electoral commission. You know, with the local government authority, local government will be expecting funds directly from FAC.
Yeah.
So I feel, we were saying most governors are the people that appoint or select who
Decide.
becomes the local government chairman. So it's in another way, the governor is still the chairman in all the local government. So the federal government, I feel the Senate are seeking to establish local government independent electoral commission. Don't you think this is an attack or a threat to the federal system that we practice here in Nigeria? Is the federal government not trying to control other tiers of government? Do you feel is a welcome development?
Well, the issue of a law, the National Assembly covers all tiers of government, whether the federal, the state, and any law they make is binding on them. And even any law you make at the state level or a bylaw you make at the local government level cannot supersede that of the National Assembly. So, as it stands, the National Assembly have every right to make a law for the local government, for the state government, and for everyone, as the case may be. Now, it's a welcome development in the if you look at the way things are, the way the state electoral commissions just submit to the governor now becomes the chairman of chairmen. He becomes the
They are
chairman of
gone.
all local governments, chairman of chairmen. So now my problem is this: INEC that we've created since 1999 or 98 before, as a, how has INEC failed? One, the state electoral commission at the various states, they were also created 1999. How have they been faring? If you create the local government electoral commission, how will they perform? Now, the issue is not creating all these agencies or bodies and the rest. The problem is that will they do the job the way it should be done? If you have the local government electoral commission, will they function will they be impartial? Will the people believe in their effectiveness? Will the people believe in the results? Will it not end up being hijacked along the line? Because you see the way the thing is there. Now the thing is, how do they separate these electoral bodies from the person, the executive at the national? Does the state, the local government electoral commission, does it submit to INEC? how is the head, how are they being appointed? Because if you now leave the power of appointment to either the state governor
With the
or the
president.
president, you're still doing the same thing. That is the issue we really have to do. The selection process for the electoral officers, for the head of the electoral bodies should be looked into so that it brings up people that don't have political leanings, that are not being influenced outside of their duty. So these are the things that we really need to look into. It is not creative. We have a lot of agencies, but are they functioning the
So
way
what you
we?
are saying is, will the local government independent electoral commission be truly independent?
That is the question.
Well, we just hope things will get better.
Yeah.
We truly commend the president, and we call on the labor union. It's time for more action. As we hope that the National Assembly will swiftly pass the 70,000 naira new minimum wage. That has been our show for today. We thank you for listening, and we hope you join us tomorrow, same time,
On
same
Monday.
station. Oh, Monday. Monday. It's a bye from me.
Bye bye. Have a nice weekend, everyone.